So my last interview of today, fully charged. I'm talking to Paul Scott, and Paul had a meeting with Obama, which went wrong, but it also was a big success. And he's one of those guys which basically is in the history of selling EV in America. Paul, when was your first engagement with electric driving?
So it was in 2002. I had just installed a solar system on my house in Santa Monica, and during the research for that, I'd come across a site where they were talking about electric cars, and I didn't realize they had them back then, but turns out that they were running all around my city, and I just didn't know they were electric.
Which one did you buy?
I bought the Toyota RAV4. It was the only one you could purchase. Everything else you could lease, and then they wouldn't sell it to you.
Like that car over there, the EV1. And I saw you in the movie, Who Killed the Electric Car, right? You were in that movie.
Yes, yes. So when I got my car, I found out there was a big political fight going on in California over these electric cars because the manufacturers were trying to take them back and actually destroy them. And those who were driving...
They were successful in getting the rules in California reduced, right? I mean, there were the rules that you had to have so many zero-emission cars, and they basically were able to blow that out of the water with with lobbyists.
There's a fateful meeting in March of 2003 in Sacramento, California, where the ZEV mandate, ZEV, zero emission vehicle mandate, was being overturned. Yeah. And unfortunately, we lost that fight, and the car makers started taking the cars back and destroying them. So we started organizing and protesting. Yeah.
Funeral sessions for the EV1, because there were thousands of them made, and they were almost all destroyed except for 40.
Yeah, just a handful of them, and most of those were gutted, so they couldn't drive. So I think the only intact one was given to the Smithsonian Institution. Yeah,
it was a sad thing. So that basically that stopped actually. That stopped electric driving for a while. Then we go further to 2010 and 2011, and Nissan, and you became the best-selling dealer of Los Angeles, and you also went to Japan. How did that story go?
So I had a blog for several years talking about electric cars, and I got a call from somebody at Nissan saying, "Hey, we'd like to meet with you." And so I met with them in Long Beach, California, and they told us that, "Hey, we're going to be making an electric car." Well, we had no idea Nissan was doing this. They had been in stealth mode for several years, and so they just kept me posted on the progress, let me drive a couple of the test mules, and then when they were ready for production cars, they flew me and another Plug-in America person. We went to Yokohama, and we got to test drive the production cars on their test track. And that's when I knew that they had a viable car. It was a very good car. Oh, yeah. And I thought,
and that was my first electric car, the Nissan Leaf. It was a beautiful, very well designed, very well manufactured car, right?
Yeah, it was a very safe car, had a lot of pep, all that. So at that time...
You also met the guy who basically was just discharged, huh?
Oh, I got to have a nice private lunch with Carlos Ghosn while I was there. There were 5 of us in there. And
he was quite passionate about electric driving, huh?
He was, and what I liked is that this was after we had the test drive, so he wanted to know what we thought of it. And he asked really pertinent questions, and he really seemed to be interested in pushing this technology. Yeah. So I was very pleased with that. And so when I was flying back, I thought, wow, I could sell that car all day long. So I went to a local Nissan dealer in Santa Monica, literally walked in off the street, talked to the owner, said, "I can make you the #1 Leaf dealer in the nation if you hire me. I'm not going to sell any of your gas cars. I'm only going to sell the electric." Yeah. But he looked at me like I was crazy, but I said, "Well, I just got back from Japan. I had lunch with Carlos Ghosn." and he's never seen Carlos Ghosn, much less talked to him. So he took me seriously. He hired me. And for the first year, I was the #1 Leaf dealer in the nation.
How many cars did you sell?
Well, total around 500, but that's over like a total of 4 years.
You had to explain time and time over again about the charging and about the this and about the range and about that.
Oh, we still do that. Even in 2020, we're still doing that because the majority of people don't realize electric cars are viable. So we have to teach them that.
We had 25,000 people getting a car in December 2019. And a lot of them had they bought a Model 3. And they had to go to the harbor, pick it up, and they basically got one video and they basically left. They had no idea about charging, just left. It's really funny how that, but then they figure it out very quickly. Okay, and then let's go to 2013. You had another crazy idea, this Obama guy, which was president then, and you wanted to have a meeting with that. How did it go? How does it work, doing a meeting with Obama?
Well, they have fundraisers all the time. That's the way it goes. Money is big in politics here. So if you gave $32,400, you could have a meeting. There would be several people in the room, but it would be you and about 20 other people for an hour, and then you would have private time one-on-one with the president. So that was a lot of money to somebody like me. But
you were a private citizen. You didn't have a, I mean, you were a little activistic, but why did you want to have a meeting with him? What did you want to tell him?
So he was just beginning his second term, so he's not going to have to run again. He's at his most powerful at that point. And I thought if I could tell him what I know about electric cars and what I think he should do, the federal government should do, then I might be able to move the needle on this a little bit. So it was worth it to me to spend that much money. And
what was your goal? What did you want him to know?
Well, basically that electric cars were going to take over eventually, and the faster we do it, the better off we are, because we're spending trillions of dollars on wars in the Gulf, in the Middle East for oil, and we don't need to do that. If oil is no longer a strategic commodity, it's just another commodity like anything else.
Fracking also became popular, right? I mean, so the whole Middle East was becoming less important, less strategic for America.
Well, possibly less strategic, but we're still over there. We're still spending tens of billions of dollars.
Not for your own oil, but more because you're there and you cannot leave, and because
the entire world's oil industry is using the U.S. military to protect it. And the citizens of the United States are paying for that with their taxes. The oil companies are not paying for it.
There comes Paul, and he pays $32,000 to support. I mean, and this was after he was re-elected, and he didn't need to be re-elected, and still there were launching parties to basically have an hour with the president for 20 times $32,000.
Yes, the money wasn't going to go for his re-election. The money was going to the Democratic Party for the next Democratic election.
What an incredible stupid idea that money can be so important. So, but you had your meeting, you paid your bill, and you had your meeting, and then what happened? No, you paid your bill, you were going to have the meeting, and then what did you do?
So I wrote an op-ed for the newspaper talking about my meeting coming up, that said that I was going to be the only guy in the room who does his own laundry, because everybody else is very wealthy, right? So I'm going to be the average person getting one-on-one with the president, which is very unusual in this country. You have to be somebody very special to get in, or very rich to get in. And I was just this normal guy.
$32,000 is still, I mean, people can afford that if they think it's important enough.
Exactly, and that's
one Nissan Leaf.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I was willing to pay that to do that. But after I wrote the op-ed, the right wing picked up the story, and they said, "Oh, it's a pay-for-play thing, and Obama's demanding money in order to have access to him." Well, for the Republicans to say that when that's what they do day after day after day,
but they were not having the president, so they're really good in using every argument they can get their hands on.
They're horrible liars and hypocrites. So anyway. Because of the uproar that it caused, the Democratic National Committee contacted me a few days before the event and said, "You can no longer come." So they eventually gave me my money back. Okay. And then the newspaper picked up that story, and I got my message out very wide and far, and it cost me nothing.
Yeah. So it was a great story. So he probably picked up on it. And did he do enough for Obama on promoting electric driving?
He did a lot. However, had he let me explain, I would have said, this is how you need to tune it. We had a $7,500 tax credit. However, a lot of people don't make enough money to make use of that. So it should be a $7,500 rebate at point of sale, and that would have expanded sales greatly had we gotten that. So I didn't get to tell him that, but I'm happy that he was our president. Very happy he was our president. I'm really sad that we've spent the last 4 years with this idiot in the White House.
Okay. Well, thank you for being so honest and open. And we in Europe, we couldn't agree more. How is electric driving doing now? I mean, we know it's big in California, a little bit in Austin. The rest of the country, except for little spots here and there, seem to be a little bit of a desert.
Yeah, it still is because of the ignorance. And a lot of that ignorance stems from the right-wing news media like Fox News, who have been denigrating electric cars for over 10 years. And so anybody who watches Fox News thinks electric cars are not viable, cost too much.
There's a lot of people who don't watch Fox News.
Yeah, and they don't read or listen to anything. So there's a hell of a lot of ignorant people in this country who are just plain stupid. So
you've been in this business now for 25 years. How is it going on now? I mean, you are here, you see it around you. Are things accelerating in America too? I mean, you have Tesla as the big promotion board.
Tesla's going to drag the other car companies into the electric realm. They have to. So Tesla's beating everybody in every segment that they get into. They dominate that market. And they're fixing to come out with a Tesla Semi, a pickup truck, and the Model Y. So they're going to dominate those markets as well. So they are bringing the other cars.
When is the tipping point coming, Paul?
Well, I think certainly within 5 years. Certainly within 5 years. Okay. But it could happen sooner. And here's how we get that. You know who Greta Thunberg is, right? Yeah. So Greta Thunberg has
a European, of course. Yeah.
Yes. She's my hero. Now, I'm 67. She's 17. I'm 50 years older.
Okay, Greta. When you see this, you have a hero here admiring you.
So when I installed my solar and got my electric car, she was born. Okay, and so what she can do, she's got millions of followers, and if she gets her followers to start protesting at car dealerships, I mean, it's one thing to march in the streets and then go home, and you get in your gas car and you go home, right? That's one thing. But if you go to Davos and she can speak at Davos and at the UN,
you want them to basically you want her to say, hey, go to your dealership around the corner and protest against selling of these gasoline CO2 emission cars.
Yeah, so you've got Tesla pulling technologically in this direction, and you've got Greta and her gang. We'll call them Greta's gang. They'll all wear T-shirts with her face on it, and they'll go protest at dealerships, and they'll depress the sale of ICE cars, internal combustion. And so you have two things going. You've got pull into the EV on this side, and you've got a depression of the ICE sales on this side, and then that will speed the transition. So if we don't do that, it'll take longer. We'll still get there, but it'll take longer and more damage will be done.
Still full of ideas. Thank you very much, Paul. And he still is going enthusiastic until all the gas-guzzling explosion cars are gone.